Thank you very much. I'm joined today by Ministers Conroy and Wong. I'm also joined by Mike Quigley, the CEO of the NBN Co, and also by David Thodey, the CEO of Telstra. I'm determined that we deliver superfast broadband around our nation. I'm determined that we build the national broadband network. And I'm determined to do that because I want our nation to have the benefits of a strong economy, 21st century education and health services, and also to end the tyranny of distance for people who live in regional Australia. I want businesses to have the productivity benefits that will come with superfast broadband. I want a mother who's worried about her baby's health in the middle of the night to be able to get face-to-face healthcare from her own home. I want kids in Australian classrooms and adults in Australia's universities to have the best possible education by having the education facilities of the world open to them through the power of the broadband network. And I want a small business in regional Australia to be able to compete with businesses in big cities and businesses around the world through the power of the national broadband network. That's why we're determined to deliver the NBN. And the NBN is being delivered. Superfast broadband is being rolled out around Australia literally as we speak. I had the opportunity earlier this year to turn on the first mainline land site in Armidale, joining the NBN being in operation in Tasmania. And we've also delivered this year a digital economy package to show the productivity benefits of the national broadband network. We've also achieved the structural separation of Telstra, a major microeconomic reform which eluded the former government and which means that we will be able to have proper competition so that consumers of broadband will be able to see the benefits of more choice, cheaper prices and faster services. Today, we're in a position to announce another big step forward with the delivery of the national broadband network. Today, I'm able to announce that, subject to ACCC and shareholder approval, Telstra has agreed to join the fibre optic future of the NBN. What this agreement means is that we will be able to see the close down of the old copper network and its replacement with fibre to the home, and that will deliver superfast broadband to Australian families and businesses. The definitive agreements reached by NBN Co, Telstra and the government have paved the way for the national broadband network to be built more efficiently, with faster take-up, higher revenues and the use of less overhead cabling. So this agreement means we are building on our microeconomic reform agenda with the structural separation of Telstra. We are building on the steps to date to roll out the national broadband network, and we will be able to see that network rolled out with the benefit of this agreement with Telstra, the closure of the old copper network, the movement of Telstra customers to the national broadband network and the use of infrastructure that Telstra has built, which will now be able to be used for the rollout of the NBN. This is good news as we move towards the future of a stronger economy, better health and education services and a better future for regional Australia that the national broadband network can provide. I'll turn now to Minister Conroy for some comments.
Well, thank you, and I'm very pleased to be here with the Prime Minister and Minister Wong and David and Mike. The National Broadband Network is the largest infrastructure project ever undertaken by an Australian government. It will connect 100% of Australian homes, schools and businesses to high-speed broadband, changing the way the nation communicates and does business. Today, I'm pleased to welcome historic milestones. The announcement by Telstra and NBN Co that they have entered into definitive agreements on the rollout of the national broadband network. The finalising of contractual agreements, primarily with Telstra, to ensure the delivery of universal service obligation reforms. These agreements with Telstra represent an overwhelming endorsement of the NBN and bring superfast broadband for all Australians, no matter where they live across Australia. Another important step closer. These agreements also mean NBN Co will have greater certainty in undertaking the rollout, with reduced costs and accelerated uptake. This is also great news for consumers who will begin to gain access to the NBN sooner. Entering into the definitive agreements will allow NBN Co immediate access to Telstra's infrastructure so that it can progress the NBN fibre rollout into the 19 mainland second release sites from now onwards, minimising community disruption and allowing for the use of less overhead cabling. As I've said before, Telstra's structural separation is the holy grail of microeconomic reform in the telecommunications sector. It is a key reform, enabling the telecommunications industry to improve its track record in providing competitive and innovative services to Australian consumers. The definitive agreements announced today, including the interim access agreements, provide for the reuse of suitable Telstra infrastructure by NBN Co, and for Telstra to progressively, structurally separate by decommissioning its copper and broadband HFC networks as the NBN fibre rolls out. The agreements between NBN Co and Telstra are worth an expected post-tax net present value of $9 billion to Telstra. They provide for a minimum lease of 35 years to 2047, after which NBN Co has 2 renewal options of 10 years each. The agreements now need to be considered by the ACCC as part of Telstra's structural separation undertaking, providing an opportunity for public consultation. And I expect Telstra will submit their SSU to the ACCC shortly. The final stage before the definitive agreements can commence is consideration by Telstra and NBN Co shareholders later this year. In addition to the Telstra agreements, the government has agreed to a package of measures Telstra has valued at around $2 billion. This includes universal services obligation contractual agreements that will commence from 1 July 2012 to ensure the delivery of important consumer safeguards during and after the rollout of the NBN. So these agreements, to be administered by a new government entity, the Telecommunications Universal Service Management Agency, or TUSMA, or TUSMA, depending on, we haven't worked it out yet, but however you want to pronounce it, will ensure that all Australians have reasonable access to a standard telephone service, that all Australians have reasonable access to payphones to ensure they will not become a relic of the past, the ongoing delivery of the emergency call service by Telstra, the ongoing delivery of the national relay service, that appropriate safety net arrangements are in place to assist the migration of voice-only customers to an NBN fibre service as Telstra's copper customer access network is decommissioned, and that technological solutions will be developed as necessary to support the continuity of public interest services such as public alarm systems and traffic lights. These universal service measures are critical to ensuring continuity of basic services to consumers throughout Australia, given the significant changes that will occur to the structure of the telecommunication industry from the rollout of the NBN. These changes will include, as I've said, the progressive decommissioning of Telstra's copper customer access network. To support the delivery of these new arrangements, the government will supplement its funding to TUSMA in the first 2 financial years. This is so contributors to the industry levy, with the exception of Telstra, will not face an increase on the aggregate funding contribution. The other elements of the government's agreement with Telstra include a $100 million agreement with Telstra to support the retraining of its staff as the firm progressively moves out of operating a copper-based network, a public information program conducted by the NBN Co and targeted at the local areas to support the rollout, and new arrangements for the provision of telecommunication services in greenfield sites announced on the 15th of June this year. As I've said, the agreements I've announced mark a major and historic milestone in the delivery of superfast broadband to all Australians. They are an important endorsement of the NBN by Telstra, which will speed up and facilitate the rollout of this game-changing piece of infrastructure. I'll now hand over to David Thodey from Telstra.
Prime Minister, Minister Conroy, Minister Wong and Mike. Well, it is a very significant day for Telstra, and it really does mark a significant milestone in the history of this company. We think it's of great value for our shareholders, for our employees, and most importantly for our customers as well. As Stephen mentioned, this comes at the end of 2 years of negotiation, and I would perhaps put to you that it's probably one of the most complex transactions ever been done in the history of corporate Australia. This has been very important for Telstra shareholders because this really signals a significant change in the future of the company. We think it gives us the regulatory certainty going forward so that we can go forth and grow and prosper as a company and leave behind many of the other things that have maybe constrained Telstra in the past. So today really does mark a significant step forward. But these agreements are still subject to a few things we need to get done, and there'll be a lot of work involved in that. Both the Prime Minister and Stephen have mentioned those, which is we have to put our structural separation undertaking to the ACCC, and also we need to take it to our shareholders to get their approval. But our board is confident that this agreement is the best alternative for Telstra and for our shareholders because it does deliver this certainty and it gives us options as we move forward. So before I finish, I do want to just take a moment to recognise some of the outstanding people who've been involved in really working to get to this agreement, both in the ministry itself, in Mike's team at NBN, also in the Minister's office and also at Telstra. This has been an incredibly difficult set of agreements to get to, but their professionalism, their dedication, their commitment have really been second to none, and I think it is all about the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mark? There we go.
Prime Minister, Mr Wong, Mr Conroy, David, ladies and gentlemen, it's taken us a little while to get here. As David said, it's been a very complex deal, but it has been worth the wait. This is a good outcome for the Australian taxpayer and a good outcome for the community. We in NBN Co will be using a substantial amount of Telstra's facilities, and in so doing we will be able to build the NBN more efficiently. And what's very important is we're avoiding the wasted duplication of infrastructure that otherwise might have taken place. This deal will ensure that we can build the NBN at a lower cost, with less risk of delay, with less potential disruption to communities as we roll out the network. And in addition, it also secures and assures NBN Co's revenue line. The reason being is, as you've heard from David, NBN will have as one of its biggest customers, probably its biggest customers, Telstra, who progressively will be moving over to use the NBN as their preferred fixed line infrastructure. So this really is a good outcome for the nation. We now in NBN Co look forward to getting on with building the network so that the people of Australia can be delivered those valuable and frankly very fast and rapidly growing broadband applications which we all know are coming. I'd also like to amplify what David has said and thank everybody who's been involved in getting this deal together. There's been a lot of long hours spent in almost everywhere, in the government, in Telstra, in NBN Co. So I join David in thanking everybody for their contribution to get us to this point. Thank you.
Thank you.